The worst part wasn't burying my grandmother, it was coming home afterward to an empty house filled with her things. Every corner held a memory, every photograph a reminder that I'd never hear her laugh again. My name is Haley, and I never expected that losing her would lead to losing everything else, too. Sweetheart, you need to eat something, Dalton said, placing a plate of scrambled eggs in front of me. His hand lingered on my shoulder, gentle but insistent. Rose is coming over later to help organize some things. I pushed the eggs around with my fork. I can handle it myself. You've been saying that for weeks. He sighed, sharing a look with his mother, who practically lived at our house these days. But you're not sleeping, barely eating. We're worried about you. Rose swooped in, her designer perfume overwhelming as she hugged me. It's perfectly normal to struggle after such a loss, but isolation isn't healthy, dear. Perhaps we should consider getting you some professional help. I'm fine, I insisted, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. I just need time. Of course, Rose patted my hand. Why don't you lie down while Dalton and I handle some paperwork? There must be so many estate matters to sort through. I nodded numbly, too exhausted to argue. As I headed upstairs, I heard their hushed voices discussing me. It had been like this for weeks. Concerned looks, whispered conversations, gentle suggestions that maybe I wasn't coping well. Later that afternoon, I found Rose in my grandmother's study, sorting through papers. Just organizing things to make it easier for you, dear. You shouldn't have to deal with all this right now. But something felt off. The filing cabinet drawers were open, and Rose quickly closed a folder when I entered. What are you doing with the financial documents? Oh, Dalton asked me to gather some information for the accountant. She smiled warmly. Don't worry your pretty head about it. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. My sister Palmer stood there, her face tight with concern. We need to talk, she said quietly, privately. We walked to the garden, away from the house. Palmer turned to me, her voice low and urgent. Why is Dalton closing out your joint investment account? What? I felt the blood drain from my face. That's impossible. He can't do that without my signature. Well, someone signed for it. Palmer pulled out her phone, showing me an email from her friend at the bank. And there's been unusual activity in several of your accounts over the past month. I haven't signed anything, I whispered, my hands starting to shake. I haven't even looked at the accounts since grandmother died, Palmer finished. Which makes you vulnerable. Haley, I know you're grieving, but something isn't right here. Dalton's been making weird moves with your money, and Rose is suddenly involved in everything. I thought about Rose in the study, hiding documents, about all the times Dalton insisted on handling the paperwork because I was too fragile right now, about the way they'd been slowly taking control of everything, always under the guise of helping. Maybe they're just trying to help, I said weakly, but Palmer's eyes hardened. Or maybe they're taking advantage of your grief. Think about it. You just inherited a fortune. Suddenly you're not yourself and they're controlling all your finances? Before I could respond, Rose's voice carried across the garden. Haley? Darling, it's time for your medication. I hadn't even known I was on medication until last week when Dalton insisted the doctor had prescribed it. For anxiety, he'd said. To help you sleep. Palmer grabbed my arm. Don't take anything they give you, not until we figure out what's really going on. I watched Rose approach with a glass of water and two small pills, her smile never reaching her eyes. For the first time since my grandmother died, I felt something break through the fog of grief, fear. Coming? I called back, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. As I walked toward the house, Palmer's words echoed in my head. What if this wasn't help at all? What if it was something much darker? I took the pills from Rose, pretending to swallow them while tucking them under my tongue. Later, I would spit them into a tissue and hide them in a drawer, evidence of whatever game they were playing, because now I was certain this wasn't about helping me heal. This was about something else entirely, and I needed to find out what before it was too late. Palmer's warnings haunted me for days. I started paying closer attention to everything happening around me, keeping my phone recording whenever Dalton or Rose were nearby, but part of me still couldn't believe they would actually hurt me. You're being paranoid, I told Palmer over coffee. Dalton loves me. He's just worried. She leaned forward, her voice intense. Then why won't he let me see the bank statements? Why is Rose suddenly handling all your grandmother's estate paperwork? I don't know, I admitted. But no buts. Palmer cut me off. Let me help you look into this. Something's wrong, and you know it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Dalton. Where are you? Mom and I are worried. Come home. See? Palmer pointed at my phone. You're a grown woman. Why do you need to report your whereabouts? I made my way home, mind spinning. The house was quiet when I entered, but I heard voices from Dalton's study. I crept closer, phone already recording. She's getting worse, Mom. Dalton's voice drifted through the crack in the door. Palmer's filling her head with paranoid ideas. We need to move faster. I've already spoken to Nicole, Rose replied. She's a brilliant psychiatrist and she understands our concerns. One evaluation from her and we can petition for temporary guardianship. My blood ran cold. What about the inheritance? Dalton asked. Once we have guardianship, we can protect her assets properly. She's clearly not in her right mind to manage such a large sum. The poor dear can barely remember to shower these days. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stifle a gasp. They were planning to have me committed, to take control of my grandmother's money. Nicole will be discreet. Dalton's voice was careful. Of course, she's an old friend. She knows exactly what to write in her evaluation. We just need to document more instances of Haley's unstable behavior. I backed away silently, heart pounding. In my bedroom, I pulled out my phone and texted Palmer. You were right. They're trying to have me declared incompetent. Her response was immediate. Don't confront them. Act normal. I'm calling my investigator friend. That evening, I played my part perfectly. I took the pills they gave me and later spit them out. I smiled vacantly when Rose suggested I should rest. I pretended not to notice when Dalton made another phone call about concerning behavior. But late that night, I couldn't sleep. I crept downstairs for water and found Dalton's laptop open on the kitchen counter. He never left it unlocked. Hands shaking, I clicked through his recent downloads. There it was, a new life insurance policy. On me, filed just this week, with Dalton as the sole beneficiary. The amount made me dizzy. Honey? Dalton's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, watching me. What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep, I managed to say, closing the laptop. Just getting water. He moved closer, wrapping his arms around me. The embrace that once felt like home now felt like a trap. You know I love you, right? Everything I do is to protect you. I forced myself to lean into his hug, fighting the urge to scream. I know. Good girl. He kissed my forehead. Now let's get you back to bed. You have an appointment with Mom's friend Nicole tomorrow. She's going to help you feel better. As he led me upstairs, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Palmer. Don't sign anything. Jesse will be watching the house tomorrow. Play along but stay alert. I climbed into bed beside my husband, listening to his breathing even out as he fell asleep. The man I had loved and trusted for 5 years was planning to destroy me. The mother-in-law who had welcomed me into her family was orchestrating my downfall. In the darkness, I touched my grandmother's ring on my finger. She had always told me that sometimes the people closest to us wear the prettiest masks. Now I understood what she meant. I turned away from Dalton, tears sliding silently down my face. But they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of rage. They wanted to paint me as crazy. Fine. But they had no idea what they were about to unleash. Tomorrow, Nicole would arrive to evaluate me. Tomorrow, they would think their plan was working perfectly. Tomorrow, I would start gathering the evidence that would destroy them all. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. All I could see was that insurance policy with its six-figure payout. They weren't just after my inheritance anymore. They wanted everything, including my life. The next morning, I slipped out early, telling Dalton I needed fresh air. Instead, I drove straight to my grandmother's lawyer's office. Xerxes was already waiting, his usually calm face tight with concern. Palmer called me, he said, ushering me inside. Tell me everything. I played the recordings from my phone. Dalton and Rose discussing guardianship, Nicole's planned evaluation, everything. Xerxes listened intently, taking notes. They can't touch the inheritance, he assured me. Your grandmother made sure of that. But if they succeed in having you declared incompetent, they could control how it's used, I finished. And with that insurance policy, this is about more than money. Xerxes leaned forward. They're building a paper trail. The medication, the concerning behavior, the planned evaluation. If anything happened to you, it would look like I did it to myself. My voice shook, while mentally unstable. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Jesse, Palmer's investigator friend. He looked like an accountant, not a PI, which I supposed was the point. I've been watching them, he said, pulling out his tablet. Rose met Nicole for lunch yesterday. I got this. The video showed Rose passing Nicole an envelope. Money? Documents? Either way, it wasn't legal. Keep recording everything, Jesse advised. Act confused, vulnerable, let them think they're winning. I left with a plan and a small recording device Jesse provided, more reliable than a phone. I arrived home to find Rose waiting. Where were you? She demanded. Dalton was worried sick. Just walking, I mumbled, playing my part. I got lost. The streets looked different. Rose's face shifted to concerned sympathy so fast it was almost comical. Oh, darling, this is exactly why we're worried. Let me make you some tea. I followed her to the kitchen, the recording device safely hidden in my bra. I'm sorry for causing trouble. You're not trouble, dear. You're family. We just want to help you get better. My phone buzzed. A text from Dalton. Car won't start. Can you pick me up from work? I drove to his office, mind clear, despite my act of confusion. Halfway there, the brakes felt soft. Then softer. Then nothing. I managed to coast to a stop using the emergency brake, heart pounding. When Dalton arrived in Rose's car 15 minutes later, he was the picture of concern. Baby, you could have been killed. This is exactly what we're talking about. You're not paying attention to car maintenance. You're getting lost. You're not yourself. I let him hug me, let him call a tow truck, let him drive me home while Rose clucked about how I could have sworn the brakes were fine yesterday. That night, Jesse texted. Brake lines were tampered with. Professional job. Got it on camera. I sat in my bathroom, hands shaking as I typed back, They really want me dead? No, he replied. They want you to look unstable. A car accident would support their narrative. Be careful. The next morning, Rose announced brightly, Nicole's coming today, just for a friendly chat. I nodded meekly. Whatever you think is best. That's my girl. Dalton kissed my cheek. Mom and I will be right here with you. I watched them exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. They were so sure of their plan, so confident in their control. The doorbell rang. Nicole was exactly as I'd imagined, perfectly professional, warm smile, expensive suit, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Haley, I'm so glad to meet you, she said, setting up her notebook. Your family is very concerned. They're so good to me, I whispered, watching Rose beam approvingly. Can you tell me about the car incident yesterday? I described it exactly as it happened, except I added confused pauses, uncertain details, moments of lost time. With each word, Nicole scribbled notes, while Dalton and Rose exchanged meaningful looks. And these episodes of getting lost? I I don't know, I stammered. Sometimes things just look wrong. The evaluation lasted an hour. Every answer I gave was designed to paint a picture of confusion and instability. By the end, Nicole's notebook was full and Rose was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. We'll talk soon, Nicole promised, squeezing my hand. Try to rest. As they walked her out, I heard Rose whisper, "How long before we can file?" "Give me 2 days to prepare the report," Nicole replied softly. 2 days. They had no idea I'd just given the performance of my life. No idea that every word was recorded. No idea that their perfect plan was about to explode in their faces. I touched my grandmother's ring again, drawing strength from it. The game was on, and I was finally ready to play. The next morning, I met Xerxes at a coffee shop 2 towns over. No chances of being seen. Palmer was there too, along with Jesse, all of us huddled over legal documents. "Once you sign these," Xerxes explained, "your assets will be protected in an irrevocable trust. Palmer will have control if anything happens to you." "And Dalton can't touch it?" I asked, pen hovering over the paper. "Not even with a court order," Xerxes confirmed. "Your grandmother's money will be safe." As I signed, Palmer's phone buzzed. Her face went pale. "Peyton's here." We all froze. Dalton's sister stood at the counter, ordering coffee. Before we could hide the documents, she spotted us and walked over. "Haley, does Dalton know you're here?" I opened my mouth, but no excuse came out. Peyton's eyes darted between us, landing on the legal papers. "What's going on?" she asked quietly. Palmer stood up. "Your brother and mother are trying to have Haley committed to steal her inheritance." "Palmer!" I hissed, but Peyton sank into a chair, looking sick. "The car brakes," she whispered. Mom said, "She said you probably forgot to maintain them." But I heard her on the phone after, talking about making sure there was no evidence. Jesse leaned forward. "Would you be willing to make a statement?" Peyton's hands trembled. "They're my family." "So was I said softly. "Until they decided my money was worth more than my life." She stared at the table for a long moment. "Yesterday, during your evaluation, Mom and Dalton were coaching Nicole before you came downstairs, telling her what to write, what to look for. It wasn't right." "Will you help us?" Palmer asked. Peyton nodded slowly. "What do you need?" We spent the next hour planning. Peyton would act normal, keep us informed. Jesse would continue surveillance. Palmer would prepare legal counterattacks. Back home, Rose was waiting. "Where were you, dear? We were about to call the police." "Shopping," I mumbled. "I think everything's fuzzy." "Oh, sweetheart." Rose hugged me. "I have wonderful news. We're planning a little trip this weekend. A lovely wellness retreat. Very exclusive." My blood ran cold. "A retreat?" "More of a facility, really." She smiled. "The best care, the best doctors. Dalton's already arranged everything." "When?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "Friday, just a few days away. Don't worry about packing. I'll handle everything." I nodded numbly, playing my part. The moment I was alone, I texted Palmer. "They're moving faster, planning to commit me Friday." Her response was immediate. "Don't panic. Jesse found something. Coming over." An hour later, Palmer arrived with a folder. Rose hovered nearby as we sat in the living room. "Just some old photos to cheer you up," Palmer said loudly, then whispered, "Look at the date." It was a mental health commitment application with my signature, dated for next week, except I hadn't signed anything. "Found it in their lawyer's filing system," Palmer breathed. "They forged your signature." My hands started shaking, not from fear this time, but rage. They really thought they could just erase me, lock me away, steal everything. "Everything okay?" Rose called from the kitchen. "Fine," I called back, "just getting emotional over old pictures." Palmer squeezed my hand. "We've got them. Just hold on a little longer." That evening, Dalton came home with takeout and a new bottle of vitamins prescribed by Nicole. to help with anxiety before the retreat. He smiled, watching me swallow them. Later, I spit the pills into a plastic bag, more evidence for Jessie. As I got ready for bed, I heard Peyton's voice downstairs. She was arguing with Rose. This isn't right, Mom. She's not crazy. Lower your voice, Rose hissed. Your brother knows what's best. The money isn't safe with her. So you're just going to lock her up? What happens when... Enough! You don't understand what's at stake. I recorded every word, adding it to our growing collection of evidence. Tomorrow, Nicole would file her report. Friday, they'd try to take me to their facility. But Thursday was going to bring them a surprise, because while they thought I was falling apart, I'd been building an ironclad case against them. I touched my grandmother's ring one last time before bed. Watch me, I whispered to her memory. Watch me burn their whole world down. Thursday morning arrived with an unexpected knock at the door. Nicole stood there, perfectly coiffed, with Rose hovering eagerly behind her. Surprise visit, Rose chirped. Nicole had a cancellation and thought it would be good to check on you before tomorrow's trip. My heart raced, but I kept my face carefully blank. Jessie's hidden cameras were already recording throughout the house. Everything was in place. Come in, I said softly, playing the docile patient. Nicole sat up in the living room, her notepad ready. How are you feeling today, Haley? Confused, I whispered, watching Rose nod approvingly. The medication makes everything fuzzy. What medication is that? Nicole asked innocently, as if she hadn't prescribed it herself. I don't know. Dalton handles all that now. Rose jumped in. She can't be trusted with her pills anymore. Last week we found her hoarding them. Of course they had, in the drawer where I'd been collecting evidence of what they were giving me. And the car incident, Nicole prompted. Have you had any other episodes like that? She got lost again yesterday, Rose interjected before I could speak. Wandered off for hours. If Peyton hadn't found her... I stayed quiet, letting them build their case. Every word was another nail in their coffin. I see, Nicole scribbled in her notebook. And these paranoid thoughts about your family? Are they getting worse? Before I could answer, Peyton walked in. She froze, taking in the scene. What's going on? Just a follow-up evaluation. Nicole smiled professionally. Would you like to contribute your observations about your sister-in-law's behavior? Peyton looked at me, then at her mother. I saw the moment she made her decision. Actually, yes, she said clearly. I'd like to discuss what I observed during the last evaluation. About the coaching session beforehand? Rose stood up sharply. Peyton, you're confused. No, Mom, I'm not. Peyton's voice was firm. I heard you and Dalton telling Nicole exactly what to write. I heard you planning the brake line tampering. Nicole's professional mask slipped. Rose, you assured me. She's lying, Rose snapped. Clearly, Haley's paranoid delusions are affecting Peyton, too. This is exactly why we need to get her proper care. I reached for my phone, pressed record. Proper care like having me committed, or proper care like tampering with my car? You're not well, Nicole said smoothly. These accusations are all recorded, I finished. Every meeting, every conversation, every plan you made to have me declared incompetent. The color drained from Rose's face. Nicole started packing up her notebook. This session is over. I'll file my report. About that, I stood up, dropping the act entirely. You might want to hold off. The police would be very interested in that envelope Rose gave you at lunch last week. The one full of cash? Nicole froze. Rose made a strange, choking sound. You're confused, Rose tried again, but her voice shook. Dalton! Dalton! Come quickly. He's at work, I smiled. But don't worry. Palmer's letting him know right now about the forged commitment papers, and the brake tampering, and the illegal prescriptions. You can't prove anything, Nicole said coldly. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, put it on speaker. What's your emergency? The dispatcher asked. My name is Haley. I'm at 1542 Maple Drive. I need to report an attempted fraudulent psychiatric commitment and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. The perpetrators are in my home right now. Rose lunged for the phone, but Peyton blocked her. Don't, Peyton warned. It's over, Mom. Nicole made a break for the door, but Jesse was already there, blocking the exit. Going somewhere, Doctor? He asked pleasantly. The police will want to see those prescription records you've been falsifying. Rose collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. We were trying to help you. You're sick. You need care. The only sick people here are you and Dalton, I said quietly, and you're about to get all the care you need in prison. Sirens wailed in the distance. Through the window, I saw Palmer's car pull up with two police cars behind her. Dalton was in the passenger seat, handcuffed. You'll regret this, Rose hissed, her mask finally cracking completely. You ungrateful little. Save it for your lawyer. Jessie cut her off as police entered the house. I watched them read rights, take statements, collect evidence. Nicole broke immediately, offering to testify against Rose and Dalton in exchange for leniency. Rose alternated between tears and threats. Peyton gave her statement, hands shaking but voice clear. As they led Rose out in handcuffs, she turned to me one last time. We were family. Family doesn't try to destroy each other, I replied calmly. But don't worry, Rose. Where you're going, you'll have plenty of time to think about what family really means. The door closed behind them, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe freely in my own home. The police station buzzed with activity as I gave my statement. Detective Morris listened intently, reviewing the evidence Jessie had gathered. This is extensive, she said, flipping through files. The forged documents, the recordings, the tampered brake lines. They really thought this through. They never expected me to fight back, I replied. They thought grief made me weak. A commotion outside the interview room drew our attention. Dalton's voice carried through the door. This is ridiculous. I was protecting my wife. She's not well. Just look at how paranoid she's become. Detective Morris raised an eyebrow. Would you like to confront him? I nodded. She opened the door, and there he was, my husband, handcuffed to a chair, still wearing his expensive suit from work. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw panic flash across his face before he composed himself. Baby, he said softly, what are you doing? You need help, not this. Help like the kind you arranged at that facility? I asked calmly. Or help like tampered brake lines? You're confused. No, Dalton. For the first time in months, I'm thinking very clearly. I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings, him and Rose discussing the forged commitment papers. His face transformed. The caring husband mask dropped completely, replaced by cold fury. You recorded us? You manipulative little Mr. Simmons? Detective Morris cut in sharply. I'd choose your next words carefully. A young officer rushed in. Detective, we just got a call from the DA's office. Someone from Dalton's company wants to make a statement. Who? Dalton demanded. Connor from accounting, the officer replied, says he has evidence of embezzlement using Mrs. Simmons' identity. Dalton's face went ash white. He's lying! Actually, I smiled. Connor's been gathering evidence for weeks, ever since you used my social security number to open those fake accounts. Did you really think nobody would notice? I want my lawyer, Dalton snapped. You'll need one, Detective Morris said. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted involuntary commitment, identity theft. The charges keep piling up. In the next room, we could hear Rose wailing dramatically as she gave her statement. We were trying to save her. She inherited all that money right after her grandmother died. She wasn't thinking clearly. Save me? I walked to the doorway where she could see me. Or save yourselves. How much debt were you in, Rose? Is that why you needed my inheritance so badly? Rose's makeup was streaked with tears. You ungrateful child. After everything we did for you. After everything you did to me, I corrected. The gaslighting, the fake medications, the isolation. You tried to make me think I was crazy. You were grieving, Dalton tried one last time. We were worried. You were greedy. I cut him off. And now you've lost everything. Nicole was in another room, already cutting a deal. Through the window, I could see her pointing to documents, naming names, desperate to save herself. Peyton appeared in the hallway, her eyes red from crying. Haley? They need me to make a formal statement, but I don't know if I can testify against my own family. I took her hand. They stopped being family the moment they decided to destroy someone they claimed to love. You're doing the right thing. Palmer joined us, carrying more files. The DA's pushing for maximum charges. With Nicole turning state's evidence and Connor's embezzlement proof, they don't have a chance. You'll never prove intent, Dalton called out. It's your word against ours. Actually, Jesse walked in, holding up a USB drive. It's your words against yours. Every conversation, every meeting, every phone call for the past month, plus the money trail, the forged documents, and the mechanic who'll testify about the brake tampering. Dalton slumped in his chair, finally defeated. Rose had stopped wailing and sat in shocked silence. Detective Morris turned to me. We'll need you to testify, but this is solid. They're not getting away with this. I looked at my husband, the stranger who had planned to lock me away and steal everything I had, at my mother-in-law who had orchestrated my psychological torture with a smile, at Nicole who had been willing to destroy my life for an envelope of cash. Good, I said firmly, because I want everyone to hear exactly what they did. I want it all on record. As we left the station that night, Palmer hugged me tight. You did it. You beat them at their own game. They thought grief made me an easy target, I replied, watching Dalton being led to a holding cell. They never expected me to fight back. What happens now? Peyton asked quietly. I touched my grandmother's ring, thinking of her strength, her wisdom. Now? Now we make sure justice is served. Every last bit of it. The courthouse buzzed with tension as I took the stand. 3 months had passed since the arrests, and now it was time to tell my story to the world. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but reporters filled every seat, notebooks ready. Dalton sat at the defense table, still wearing his expensive suits, still trying to look concerned. Rose had opted for a conservative dress and pearls, playing the role of devoted mother. Nicole slouched in the witness box, having already testified against them in exchange for a lighter sentence. Please state your name for the record, the prosecutor began. Haley Henderson. Can you tell us when you first noticed something was wrong in your household? I looked directly at Dalton as I spoke. After my grandmother died, when I inherited her estate, my husband and mother-in-law suddenly became very concerned about my mental health. Objection! Dalton's lawyer stood. Speculation about my client's motivations. Overruled, the judge said. Continue, Ms. Henderson. I detailed everything. The isolation, the fake medications, the tampered brakes, the forged documents. With each word, Rose's face grew paler. Dalton's mask of concern slipped further. And what made you start recording their conversations? My sister Palmer noticed unusual activity in my accounts. When I confronted Dalton, he said I was being paranoid. That's when I realized they were gaslighting me. The prosecutor played one of the recordings, Rose and Dalton discussing the facility where they planned to commit me. That's taken out of context, Rose suddenly shrieked, jumping up. We were trying to help her. Mrs. Simmons, sit down or you'll be held in contempt, the judge warned. The evidence mounted. Connor testified about the embezzlement. The mechanic confirmed the brake tampering. Bank records showed the money trail. Nicole's files proved the fraudulent evaluation scheme. During a break, Palmer squeezed my hand. You're doing great. They're crumbling. She was right. When court resumed, Rose broke down on the stand. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she sobbed. We just needed to protect the money. She was spending it all on charities, giving it away. That fortune belonged in the family. The family? I stood up, unable to help myself. I was your family. Order! The judge banged his gavel. Rose's tears dried instantly, her face twisting with hate. You never deserved him, or that money. We had plans before you came along with your perfect little life and your rich grandmother. Mrs. Simmons, the judge thundered. One more outburst and you're in contempt. Dalton testified last, still trying to spin the story. Everything I did was out of love. My wife was spiraling after her grandmother died. We had to intervene by stealing her identity, the prosecutor interrupted. By planning to have her committed so you could access her inheritance? By taking out a life insurance policy without her knowledge? She wasn't capable of managing, Your Honor. The prosecutor cut in. I'd like to present evidence of Mr. Simmons's internet search history in the weeks before his arrest. Searches including undetectable poisons and making death look like suicide. The courtroom erupted. Peyton burst into tears. Rose went rigid. Dalton's face turned to stone. You were going to kill me? I whispered, the truth finally hitting me. That was your backup plan? Dalton looked at me then, really looked at me, and smiled, a cold, empty smile that showed me the monster he'd always been. You'll always be alone now, he hissed. Who could ever trust you again? The jury took only 2 hours to reach their verdict, guilty on all counts. Before sentencing, the judge said, I want to acknowledge the remarkable strength and precision with which Ms. Henderson documented and exposed this conspiracy. Your actions have likely saved others from similar schemes. Rose got 15 years. Dalton got 25. Nicole took her plea deal for 5 years plus loss of her medical license. The courtroom emptied, leaving just our small group, me, Palmer, Peyton, Jesse, and Xerxes. It's really over, Peyton said quietly. Almost, I replied. There's one more thing. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I just donated half of my inheritance to start a foundation for victims of financial abuse and gaslighting. The press release goes out tomorrow. Palmer grinned. Rose will have a stroke when she hears you're giving away the money in prison. Good, I said, standing up. Let her spend her 15 years knowing that the fortune she tried to steal is helping people she would have victimized. We walked out of the courthouse together, past the reporters shouting questions, past the cameras flashing. I didn't need to say anything more. The truth had finally been heard, justice had been served, and I was free. Dalton was right about one thing, though. Trust wouldn't come easily again. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Sometimes the hardest lessons teach us the most important truths. The autumn wind rustled through my grandmother's garden as I knelt in the soil, planting new bulbs for spring. This was where I felt closest to her, in the space she'd loved most. My phone buzzed. A text from Palmer. Turn on the news! I rushed inside, flipping on the TV. There was Rose, being interviewed from prison, tears streaming down her face. I found God, she proclaimed. I want to apologize to Haley. We were wrong, so wrong. I snorted and texted Palmer back. Her appeal must be coming up. Already denied, Palmer replied. This is damage control. The documentary about your case airs next week. I'd refused to participate in the documentary. My story had already helped enough people through the foundation. The weekly support group meetings were full of survivors sharing similar stories of manipulation and financial abuse. The doorbell rang. It was Peyton, holding a thick envelope. I found these in Mom's storage unit, she said, hands shaking slightly. More evidence, documents going back years. You weren't their first target. We spread the papers across my kitchen table, bank statements, forged signatures, photographs, a trail of destruction through multiple families. They did this to 3 other women before you, Peyton whispered, but nobody fought back like you did. Nobody collected evidence. Have you shown these to the police? She nodded. Detective Morris is reopening those cases. Mom and Dalton might face additional charges. My phone buzzed again, a message from Jessie. Nicole's trying to make a deal, says she has more names, more conspiracies. Want me to look into it? No, I typed back. Let someone else fight that battle. Peyton helped me make tea, her movements uncertain in my kitchen. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, all the times I could have stopped them. You did stop them, I reminded her. When it mattered most, you chose truth over family loyalty. Speaking of family, she pulled out another envelope. Dalton's asking for a prison visit. Says he has something important to tell you. I took the envelope and dropped it straight into the shredder. Nothing he says could matter now. The kettle whistled. Through the kitchen window, I could see my grandmother's roses still blooming despite the cooling weather, strong like she'd been, like I'd become. The foundation approved 10 new grants today, I told Peyton. Women starting over after financial abuse. Each one gets legal help, counseling, job training. Using Rose's dream of wealth to help her worst nightmare, independent women. Peyton smiled. Perfect karma. My doorbell rang again. This time it was Palmer with takeout and wine. Celebration time! Just got off the phone with the DA. Those documents Peyton found? They're charging Mom and Dalton with 3 more counts of fraud. We settled in my living room, the same room where Nicole had tried to declare me incompetent. Now it was filled with laughter, with plans, with truth. I got another letter from Dalton's lawyer, Palmer mentioned between bites. They're offering a deal. If you'll speak at his parole hearing about forgiveness and rehabilitation, he'll reveal more conspiracy details. Let me guess, Rose put him up to it? Probably. She's desperate now that her prison ministry act isn't working. I touched my grandmother's ring, thinking of her wisdom. They still don't understand. This was never about revenge. It was about justice, about truth. Truth. Peyton raised her glass. Something they never understood. My phone lit up with notifications. The Foundation's latest success story had gone viral. A woman in Seattle who'd escaped her financially abusive partner, inspired by my case. You know what the best revenge is? I said, showing them the post. This. Every woman who gets help, every abuser who gets caught, every truth that comes to light. Palmer hugged me tight. Grandmother would be so proud. She'd also tell me to stop neglecting her garden. I laughed. Come on, help me finish planting those bulbs before it gets dark. We worked together in the garden, preparing for new growth, new beginnings. Above us, the autumn sky turned golden, then purple, then starred. I thought about Dalton's words in the courtroom. You'll always be alone. He'd been wrong about that, too. I had family, real family. I had purpose. I had truth. In my grandmother's garden, surrounded by the people who'd helped me fight back, I was exactly where I needed to be. Not all scars heal completely, but they remind us of our strength. And sometimes the best endings aren't about getting even, they're about getting free. I pressed the last bulb into the soil, patting the earth gently. Come spring, something beautiful would grow here, just like truth, just like justice, just like me.